Hi, guys. Welcome to HR. Are you listening? This is your host, Marta Fernandez. Welcome. This is our second episode. Super excited. Today, we have an amazing special guest. Her name is Carla Casarin. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
How are you?
Oh, it's all good. I'll be tired after a long day at work, but all good.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a weekday, right? So, a lot of work. How are you excited for this podcast? How are you feeling? What's your thought?
I I am very excited. I am a bit nervous. So I think I'm really happy to be doing this with you. So because I know it's not gonna be hard, it's not gonna be bad, it's gonna flow. So I'm happy.
Actually, very honored to have you. Carla's a great friend of mine, guys. We know each other from back since 2013-ish,
12.
2012. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of relationship here, guys. That being said,
Yeah.
to Carla, please introduce yourself to our amazing audience. Who is Carla?
Okay, thank you. I don't know. I feel like when you're in like a first day of class or something, and the teacher asks everyone to introduce themselves. What's your name? What are you like? Some fun fact about you and stuff like that. But anyway, my name is Carla. You'll notice the accent. I am from Mexico. I'm officially an immigrant. I moved to Canada 2 years ago, so I am not a newcomer anymore. I'm not like trying to figure out things. I'm still here, which makes me really happy. I work at a higher education institution here. I am in an admin position for the first time in my life. In my career, I've been in that position for about 2 years. But before, I was an international student recruiter for a few institutions. And actually, today, when we officially start, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to share a few stories of when I was doing that before I came here.
Wow. The fact that you just mentioned that you moved to Canada and that you're an immigrant and now you're in a more professional ambience, right? As administrator.
Yeah.
Very different from recruiter. So there is a lot of
Yeah.
experiences that you have gone through, especially if you're becoming an immigrant. So fun fact before we move forward, guys, Carla and I, we met in undergrads. So
Yeah.
the whole relationships and how we have evolved significantly through time is interesting. Even though I didn't stay in Canada, I have seen how Carla has changed her career and moved forward and try to achieve to be a better professional. And I want to say kudos to her. I think she has done an amazing job.
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge that her hard work has put her where she is right now, and it has not been so easy. So, with no further ado, Carla, what is the story that we have today?
Well, after everything you said, making me blush a little bit, I don't know. I just think I just wanted to start. I know we are focusing on HR, but like in my head is HR is everything people related, right? So thinking actually back to when you and I met, I was an exchange student. So I was just in the university for for a brief period of time, just a couple of semesters. And actually, my first job that I had as a recruiter for international students was with that university that we both attended. I was 20. I think I turned 21 right before going back to Mexico. And I was offered a part time job as a recruiter. At that time, it was like a marketing representative, but it was basically a recruiter, right? It was my first job ever. I didn't have a high school job or anything like that. So that was my first job ever. And I knew nothing,
Yeah.
nothing at all. So for me, something that I look back to is that I had good people around me, fortunately. People at the university were really nice to me. But I do think that me not having experience or not having a lot of information had an impact on how that, like the first conditions of the job were, right? So I remember, okay, being super excited, saying yes to everything. Whatever they gave me, I was super happy to get. I didn't negotiate, I didn't ask, and I didn't feel like I was in a position to ask for anything because I knew nothing,
Mhm.
right? I was just happy to be there. After I started, I got to meet other recruiters from other institutions. And I've always been very lucky to find nice people around me. So I remember starting talking to them and even little things like, hey, did they give you your own computer? I'm
Wow.
like, no, I'm using my computer, right? Or do they give you this? Do they give you that? Have you asked about this? And I'm like, no, right? So I met a couple of people that told me, that prepared me. No, you gotta be sure of yourself. And they would always tell me, don't let them like lowball you just because you're young, right? And that helped me a lot. And I really appreciate that. And those actually are the same people that to this day, when I don't know I'm not sure about something because they have way more experience than me, I look to them. And
Sorry, I have a
yeah,
quick question. When you started your job in this company as a recruiter, marketing recruiter, were you working in Canada or are you working back home? Uh,
no, I was working back home. So all my experience as a recruiter, I think I did 8 years, 9 years. It was always based down in Mexico, recruiting Latin American students. And I would move around within Mexico. And after, when I started growing and getting more responsibility within Latin America, going to Central America, South America a couple of times. But yeah, no, everything was based in Mexico, which actually like also had a whole different thing because I was not actually on payroll.
mhm.
So I was external. I was like a contractor
Yes.
and I didn't see anyone. I was always there by myself. I never had any other team member based out in Mexico City.
Yeah.
So it was a very lonely job,
Mhm.
I gotta say.
I was gonna say, like, the just before we move forward with the story, like the whole sense of where we were, like you were an international who went to Canada, got a job from the place that you went to study, which was great news,
Yep.
moved to Mexico, right? And
Yep.
you start working for them as a contract. So
Yes.
there's a lot to just with that. There's so much to unpack because you just said you met people. They were like, "Do you have this? Do you have that?" And you were like, "No." So I found it interesting because just how the preparation for even that position, how you got this position, and you're already thrown into the water, and gratefully you met great people, which is part of something that we need to acknowledge when we enter into a new work environment. The people who are around us, like our peers, even though it's not working in the same company, but in the same work environment, help us a lot to navigate when the company lacks training or lacks certain things, especially with the onboarding. This is important. So, what Carla says right
Yeah.
now, it's hey guys, I didn't know, but the people that I met through the process were the one actually who helped me survive.
It was actually like people from it was the same industry, but they were not even working at the same institution, right? We were all from different institutions. But at least in my experience, it felt lonely in regards to the institution that I was working with. And a lot of other reps have that experience. So you look out for each other. So one of my first recommendations that I think about that I would have loved to know before is that you gotta talk to people. You gotta know what's out there. Especially when you're new or you're young, you need to know what's yeah, like what's out there, what are the conditions, what's there, what should be expected. I grew into it little by little. I was learning. I got everything sorted out eventually. But it would have been great if it could have been sorted out in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of like little by little. Something that I look back and also like comparing, right? Because 8, 9 years of working as a recruiter, I saw a lot. I lived a lot, right? I can say that before the position that I'm in right now, before moving to Canada, I worked for the same institution as a rep,
Mhm.
as a recruiter for international students. But this institution that I work right now, I love it. And the team is amazing and I'm super happy. And even comparing it, like being a recruiter from other institutions for other institutions and being a recruiter for this one, even though I didn't have a lot of contact with human resource or anything like that, like the actual department when I was away, when I was based in Mexico as a recruiter, the team always made me feel like I belonged, right? And that's something that I lacked in other positions. Like it was very lonely, it was very detached. I never knew what was going on, right? But in this other place, the people, like the whole culture of the department made a big difference. And I think that is something very important when you talk about like the people in the company, right? You need to to make everyone feel like they belong, like they're part of a team. And that makes you happier, that increases your productivity,
Right.
right? Then you can like the communication within departments, with the other team members, even if you're remote, and even more now that every day it's more and more common to be working remotely. you need to be able to make those connections. And that comes to the culture of the company.
And I
And that's something that I've always been very grateful that even when I was far, everyone in the department always made me feel like I belonged and that I was part of something. I was not just a recruiter overseas.
and I actually was gonna say, you just mentioned such an important aspect. You could see the differences between a company or an organization has lack of belonging or cultural environment versus now have an experience uh, with a company who genuinely seems like they try to promote a healthy work environment that creates belongingness. And I find it interesting because you just said now that you're in this position and after X amount of years of working as a recruiter, if I had this at the beginning, when I started it, when I was like in my 20s, it would have been a very different experience. As an employee,
Yeah.
you'll be like, it would have been different. At the same time, now you're like, I'm so grateful that I have this company because now you could see what you appreciate in a company, right? And so I find it interesting that you just call it as it is. There is a before and after on your experience as a
Yeah,
recruiter.
no, 100%. I always say like everything that I had to do in my jobs, like you learn, like I ask for help, I get training or I figure it out or however it works. But for me, the most important thing has always been the people around me, right? That I like the people, that I like the environment. And I've been lucky enough that I've never been working anywhere or with anyone that I say, oh, this sucks. I don't like it. Like I've always liked what I do and I've always been happy. It's just sometimes like now it's like the years, the experience, I don't know, the age. But you look back and it's okay, this could have been a little bit better,
Right.
right? Like this, I would have struggled less here if I had this. But I don't know. I feel like this connection, like with other people, is what ends up making everything better, right? There's a bunch of things that I like never had to do as a recruiter, but now as an admin, like in an admin position that I'm in, I need to figure out because even though I learned it before, I hadn't used it recently, right? Also for context in my education, I have a bachelor's in psychology, but then I did an MBA. So I do have that like business administration education, but I didn't use it much as a recruiter. And now that I have to use it in an admin position, I had to dust it off,
Hmm.
but it required a lot of support, right? And I always said I use my Amneal card
Hmm.
for the first few months when I was here, and I would go to every department and I would say, "Hey, I'm Carla. This is what I'm doing. I'm new. I'm lost. Can you help me out?
Right.
This I know it's done this way. Is that the way that you want to do it, or is there a better way to do it?"
So
And I think that's like way more important, or maybe it depends on the position. I'm not. It's not always way more important, but at least for me and in the positions that I've been, the people have been way more important than what I actually do.
mm.
And if I am being successful or not, it has to do a lot with the support that I can receive from the company that I work at or like the people that I work with, right?
So I now I have a question because you sound so confident. You sound that I know this is what, right? Of course, because of the struggles that you went through and the fact that you were in Mexico, the standards were different. Like it's not the same. It's not the
100%.
same the work environment within Canada when you're working inside Canada versus hey, I work for a Canadian company inside Mexico. It's very different. But I don't want to focus on that too much because I want to mention the fact that you your confidence. So in the part that you just said is, hey, I went out of my way and asked for assistance and for help. I know better. I know that I need to ask for help or push myself out there to learn all this stuff at admin. Even though you had your MBA, even though you were prepared, you have done some stuff before, maybe not as much in your experience as a recruiter. It shows confidence. It shows that I'm not shy. You are comfortable to ask for assistance, which a lot of people don't. Like, normally when you start in
Yeah.
an organization, people are like, "Yeah, hey, people." Does that make sense? Is you try to
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
but
It totally makes
do
sense.
you
But I think it's
think it's it because what you experience in Mexico? Because it seems like you're in Mexico, your experience as a recruiter in all this time, it's you solely based on your community, on the recruiting community. Like, that made me
yeah,
realize that without this community as a recruiter, it would have been 10 times harder to achieve all the hard work that you have done. all this, everything that you have done in the past and all your challenges, you rely on people. So do you think that is why now you feel so comfortable in this position where you're at now to go ask for assistance? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a combination. I think it's one is a personality thing, and the second is something that I've chosen to work in, right? So I think it's pretty obvious by now. I'm an extrovert. I like people. I like talking to people. I think that's a me thing, right? That's something that I like. I came out that way. And that's why, for example, I got that first job, right? They saw an international student that was in an exchange that had a great time, that knew everyone. Why don't we hire this girl to recruit students for us, right?
Mhm.
I'm a walking testimony. I think that was what got me first into this
Oh,
and the international education industry. And also it was more maybe subconsciously, like I realized, like not completely aware, but that talking to people always got me out of stuff, right? If I ask for help, I figure things out. And I remember, and that this is something that I really liked. I worked for a short period of time, like in a summer camp, but like the admin team. And I remember I had a boss there. It was my director. He, in my perspective, is the person that I've seen with the best people skills ever. I saw him and I was like, I want to be like you when I grew up. This was a while back. It was like my mid 20s. I think I was like 25 or something. And I remember he told me, I see you with the people and I see how you figure it out and everything, but I see that it comes natural, right? And he told me, imagine if you did it intentionally. And that stuck with me, right? Because for me, it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and it works and that's it, right? But now that got me thinking. And I was like, okay, if I'm good at this, how basically I use it as a weapon, basically, right? Like
it's
to win these
right.
battles. Yeah. So after that, I decided, you know what, people skills, that's going to be my superpower, right? I'm going to work it with. So I took every opportunity that I had. Can I solve this like talking to another human? I'll go and do that. Can this be a call instead of an email? Can this be a walking towards someone's office instead of a call? Like increasing that human contact, because that's what I identified that in me was a strength,
Mm,
right? So I think something that is would be really valuable is to identify your own
right.
strengths. And if something comes out natural, imagine if you did it
Yeah.
intentionally, right? So where are your strengths, and then work on them like a muscle,
Yeah.
right? For example, I can tell you, I hate budgets. I hate numbers. Like that's not my thing. But I've had to learn because of the type of job. It's just not the part that I enjoy the
Right.
most. And I had to deal with a budget situation recently. And first of all, I know nothing about our finance system. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Why do I get this? Blah, 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 right? To not get into any of the boring details, I had like what I felt like a huge mess
Mm,
that I had no idea how to solve. So I think for about a week, I went to our director of finance. I went with the financial assistants. I went to the involved departments. I went to the manager of a department. I went to the manager to the other. I went with the people that put in purchase requisition. I went to the person that gave me the budget report. I talked to so many people to be able to understand what the situation was, how it came to be, and then how I needed to start fixing it. Because also there were so many people involved that I needed to make an actual plan of, okay, I move this piece. And then when I move this piece, then I can move this other one. Because if I move this one first, then I'm not going to be able to fix this. So it
right.
was like a order and everything, right? I could have not done that if I hadn't talked to people, because numbers are not my thing, but people is my thing. So I'm like, if this is my number problem, how do I fix it by talking to people? And that's what I did.
I want to go back and highlight the fact that you said you met someone when you're in your early 20s and that there's a before and after meeting this person as a boss. Like
100%.
I want to highlight the importance of when we meet those few people in our work environments and like in an opportunity or even sometimes outside of work. But there is always few couple of people that they will say something to you that will change your whole dynamic of how you perceive your work environment, how you perceive yourself as an employee. And so I think you have such a wonderful stories on how humans could genuinely help each other as in a sense of community and help you to be better. So this person creates some awareness of, hey, this is your superpower. Work on it and use it to your advantage, right? Use it as a benefit. And so that I just want to acknowledge that because I think people do need to understand. Sometimes in our life, there's few people like Carla's boss who say something so simple
Correct.
because that was the simplest thing.
That was simple. It was one phrase. It
Yes.
was one phrase. It was not even a full conversation. It was a
Yes.
phrase.
Yes, and it changed
And
her
just stuck.
whole mindset. If you're listening to this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people has that one person who says something so simple to you about your qualities or your personality or anything. And if you really look at that, those simple things are the ones who empowers more people. And so it's interesting that you'd mentioned that because it's talks so much about the sense of community, but also talks about the power of people, of how we could empower people by saying simple things or just acknowledge people strengths. In this case, your superhuman interpersonal skill sets. And I have to say, it's true. I will have to agree with her boss. Carla is actually very interpersonal person, and she has helped me in the past, not just because she's a psychologist and I use her for free services. No, I'm joking, but for real, she does have these skills, and it's and interesting that now she sees those skills that she was aware, but now someone pointed out like, hey, use it as your advantage to improve your career or make your work environment better. So, do you saw yourself where you at right now, or this was just more like opportunity came along and you accepted?
Yeah.
Is it something that you were like you built your career path on this, or it was something that with time you got opportunities and you said yes to those opportunities?
Honestly, I've never had a proper plan before.
Okay.
I, as I mentioned before, for me, it's more about the people that I work with, about the environment. That is like in practical terms, like thinking about work and everything. But like in a more broader vision, right? I don't have really a plan for my life. I thought it was because I was young, but then I grew up and that didn't change. But if you ask, do your plan for your life? I don't have a plan. What I want out of life is that I want to be happy,
Mm.
right? I've always follow what I think is going to make me happy, right? That's not to say that I'm just sitting here waiting for opportunities and doors to open, right? Like when I do something, I put a lot of effort in it. I try to do things right. Again, I was able to realize that that knowing people was one of my skills, right? So I've always worked on not only meeting people because I like it, which I do, but also because I've realized that networking has given me all the opportunities that I actually gotten in life, right? All the jobs, all the projects that I've gotten is because I talked to someone, right? It's funny because my dad has always told me that not to talk to strangers. And now that I'm a grown up, I'm like, everything that I've had is because I talked to strangers,
Right.
right? But no, don't talk to strangers. Just in safe environment. I think for me I've always had this vision of being open to opportunities. So I've never known where am I gonna be next. I got an opportunity and when I was an exchange student to be a part-time this, and I was like, this sounds great,
Mm.
right? I'm gonna do this until the next thing comes, right? And then I moved to different institutions. I was approached by a couple of institutions at different points. And maybe it was better opportunities, maybe it was better money or something. But I would think that's not going to make me happier than I'm not right now. So I turned some down. I pursue others. There were opportunities that I thought were there that I pursued that didn't work. And I was like, I did my best. I put all the effort. If it didn't work, it was for something. Others did work. But honestly, what has been my guide always is this going to make me happier than I am right now?
Right.
Is this going to make me grow?
Right.
Is this a new challenge? No, am I going to like the people?
So there's no, so you're it's not like you say my passion is higher education. For example, for me, it's like, oh, I'm now in my 30s. I'm very intentional of building my career as an HR person. I guess it oddly enough in your work experience and your employee experiences, you end up you fall into this opportunity of, oh, let me be a recruiter. And that just became your career because A, how
Yeah.
good you are, B, how good you are, and C, because you met great C, because you met great people and you network, right? Because you said a lot of opportunities came and go. Also a lot of opportunities you were able to pursue because of also your networks. I guess I was trying to understand, is it that are you someone that just takes opportunity because they're a peer, or is it you're someone like, I want this type of work environment. I want to build my career path and recruiters.
I honestly, yeah, no, honestly, and I think, and I, again, that comes to like personality or like your vision of life. I know that people have this very like
Clear.
clear mind of, I want to be this, right? I don't know, like I want to be a doctor, I want to be an architect, I want to be this. I don't have
Okay.
that. For me, honestly, it's not about what I do because I feel like I'm not going to go and become an engineer overnight or anything like that. But in my area of these things that I can do, for me in particular, it's not as important what I do. It's more important if I'm happy while I do it.
Right.
And my work is just something I do. So, for example, I was a recruiter for the longest time in international education and I loved it. But then I had this opportunity to move to Canada, and being a recruiter, it was not going to work anymore. So I was like, okay, so what's going to give me the opportunity of moving? And it was this. And I was like, I've never been admin anything, but I'm seeing the responsibilities. I'm seeing what it would, and I'm like, I could do that. And what I can't, what I don't know how to do, I'll learn how to do. So I came here and now I did this. And I was like, I'm actually enjoying it more than I thought I was.
Wow.
Because for me, the beginning, it was like, it's what I need to do to take my next step to move to Canada, which is going to make me happy,
I
right?
see.
So maybe 5 years ago, I would have said, no, I never want to do anything admin. That's boring, right?
Right.
But now I'm like, I actually really like it. So now I know that I like admin
Right.
stuff, right?
Right.
And I like international education. But if I'm being honest, I've never done anything else. Everything that I've done has been related to international education. But maybe tomorrow something else comes up and I say, huh, maybe this other industry make me happy.
Right.
And I discover something else that make me happy.
Right.
So today, I think I would stay in international education. It makes me happy. Am I sure I'm going to stay in it?
Right.
No, but
Yeah.
it's my, where am I right now? And I'm happy.
Also, to tie back very quickly to your stories when you started as a recruiter very early versus where you are right now, and how your employee experiences was when you were contract based, now that you're a direct hire, there is a difference. So you're saying, I'm looking for a job that brings me joy. But oddly
Yeah.
enough, what brings you joy is the sense of community and sense of belonging. So I would imagine if that first company had a stronger sense of community or belonging, which they didn't, clearly, you're more likely to be like, oh, okay, I could see myself growing in this company. Versus now I look into it like you say yes to opportunities, branding, you're willing to take a
Yeah.
risk in terms of your professional decision making, right? What type of job you would like to get. But the first thing that comes to mind is you stay in this company that you are right now. You start as a recruiter, you start as a contract base working in Mexico. They treat you so gorgeous as a human being. They respect you, they give you your space compared to the first one that was terrible. They're like, who's Carla? We don't know Carla. Versus
Yeah.
here's, we know Carla, we give her all the information she needs, we give her all the support. That culture allowed you to jump into like, I don't know about ad, but I'm gonna take it. Like I'm gonna gamble it because I know that the culture that they have, it's healthy, enjoyable culture. Despite
Yeah.
despite the learning curve of what it meant to be an admin person.
And actually, like when I first was trying to get something here and it ended up being admin, I remember thinking I could go, I didn't have to come here
Mhm,
because fortunately for me, the opportunity that I have to move here was not tied to my job. So I could go anywhere.
mhm.
It was a choice for me to come here. And when I had this opportunity, I was like, okay, I'm going to move. I was like, I am going to go to a new everything, a new country, a new culture, new weather, new everything. I don't want a new job also. Like it was going to be a different position, but I was like, I love my team so much that I want to go somewhere where I already have exactly like that sense of belonging. When I talked to my boss, I was like, I want to see if there's anything for me over there because I don't want to work anywhere else. I want to work with you guys,
Mm,
right? And I want to work with this team that I already know and love and that I value them and they value me, right?
right,
And that's how I got this opportunity. And I'm always going to be grateful because also, like, I had the education for it, but I didn't have the experience for it. But it goes both ways, right? They trusted me, they knew me, and they knew that I was going to put the effort and that it was going to be a learning curve, but that I was going to get there,
right,
right? Because at the end, it's more about the
right,
people. I'm thinking, even like in when like in hiring processes, resumes are very good and you need to put a lot of effort to that because that's like your first impression. But people are so much more important. Like meeting someone and seeing potential
Mm,
and not only like someone that fits all the boxes,
right.
right? Like maybe someone on paper looks could be a fit to a position, but then you meet them and it's, oh my God, they're perfect.
Right. Yeah. So to wrap up this conversation, what is something that you think would you have said to Carla Jr. when she started when she said yes to her first work part time as a contract base? Like reflecting upon it, what would be one thing that you say this would have changed significantly my work experience with this company or with your first recruiting job? Not like you would change your
Um,
experience, but more of the if I know a new person coming in as a recruiter, like if you're hiring a Carla 2.0 that she's
yeah.
fresh, she's gonna start working in Mexico. What is one thing you would say to this person?
It's funny actually because I kind of lived through something like that.
Huh.
I didn't travel in time and talk to myself, but recently, a couple of years ago, I recommended someone that came from a completely different industry to get a job in this, and it was like a entry level as a rep, right? And I was like, okay, you're new in this, right? So this is what you need to know. And it was the figure out what are your strengths and use them as a weapon, right? Be intentional with everything. Second, this is a hard job, right? Like it's starting, it's 24/7. You deal with students, you deal with people. It's not a 9 to 5, right? But no, it's something that I remember telling her. It was like, know your worth and don't be afraid to ask for things. That is something that I didn't have because even though I felt like I was going to be good, I knew I was going to put all the effort. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I, I am just going to take whatever they give me. I'm not going to ask for anything and I'm just going to be grateful for this opportunity. What I told this person that also came from a different industry, which was not great, so she was going to be, even though she was not that young, like it was not like a 20-year-old like I was, she was new and had no idea. And I knew she was going to be like, I'm happy to take anything because this is a great opportunity. So I was like, if you think you need something, you're worth it, right? Like you can ask because you're worth it. You're already good.
Right.
If they hire you, it's because they know you can do the job.
Right.
So asking for things is not going to get you in trouble. That was one thing. I remember when I asked for getting my own computer, that to not use my personal computer so that they gave me a computer. I was so nervous. I thought it was going to be like the greatest offense. Now I'm like,
What did they
that's like the
say?
bare
What
minimum.
did they say?
They said yes.
Oh,
They said yes because it makes sense. But I didn't know it made sense. So yeah, this is getting longer than the actual wrap up. But I think if I had to choose one thing, would be like know your worth,
mm,
know that you're worth it, that you're worthy of receiving all the support,
mm,
all the help, and not be afraid to not be afraid to ask
right.
for things that you need to do your job and to be happy in your
Yeah.
job. That would be the one
Yeah.
thing.
It's so funny because it like if we look at it, it's at this point, I'm just gonna go very quickly. It's like the company that you first started, somehow, some way they scumbag you. It sounds terrible, but they knew this you needed certain tools and resources for you to be able to do your jobs. And so the fact that they didn't say anything during all that time, how many years you went like that until someone's like, hey, you don't have this? Do you don't? This is the basic things that you need to do with your job with. So I was gonna mention that as it is crazy that this company, this organization scumbag you because or I don't know, or they messed it up or they
I
were not
think
but it is terrible.
I don't know what went behind. I don't know what went behind there, but I think it's fairly common that companies have at the end is a negotiation, right?
Right.
Negotiation. They offer you something, you ask for more, you meet in the middle, or they see if they can make it work, if they you can accept what they are offering. But in that moment, they offered me something, and I didn't ask for anything,
Right.
so they didn't touch it, right? But they knew there were some things, right? I can't.
But
At least the first thing that I asked for was a computer, but it was years before I thought, you know what? I'm dealing with a lot of people. There's like people over the world, different time zones, blah, blah, blah. I should have a work phone. I should be able to unplug right? So for years, I never thought of it, and it was just my personal phone.
Right.
So people would call me at hours that I was not working, and I could not answer because it was my personal phone,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't think of it because I didn't think it was an option until I saw someone, and I was like, I should have a work phone. Why don't I have a work phone? Why haven't I been over a work phone, right?
Yeah.
So those little things, and that's also important, like talk to people, talk to others, research about what's the benefits that you would be entitled to in a position like that, right? It's not like you're entitled to everything and everything, every single position, right? Depending on the position, depending on the level and everything, you get different things.
Right.
But make sure that you're getting the things that you should be getting, right?
What I was trying to say, I agree with you. What I was looking into more the aspect of they knew if you're bringing a recruiter who you know that they need this type of resources, a computer, a cell phone, or a reimbursement of your cell phone, or whatever it is that it looks like the benefit.
However it works, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel though your employee experience with this company, it you revolve it a lot in the belonging and the sense of community. But I just really want to point out that is scumbaggy
Yeah.
because these are tools and resources that they should be given like a set expectation. You're gonna be traveling? Are you gonna be using laptops? You're gonna be using your phone? You're gonna people gonna be calling you nonstop? Okay. Like you don't expect people to use their personal stuff, especially when there's sensitive data or content in those laptops. So now you have someone
Yeah.
carrying in their personal laptop personal stuff, professional stuff, or work stuff. These things, like what Carla says, computers, cell phones, if your job requires for you to do your job fully in the best capabilities, you need a computer and a phone. That must be it. That is part of your onboarding process. Here's your laptop.
Yeah.
Here's your phone. I'm just saying, in the employee experiences, these are things that, yes, you need to speak up. But again, Carla just mentioned a very, very important is like research, educate yourself about the job, the set expectations, the benefits, the overall, because it does affect. Because imagine Carla working for years, answering her personal phone after hours.
That was not great.
Yeah, that's
That was not
yeah,
great.
that's adds to her bad experience with the company because now she feels obligated to be answering 24/7, which she shouldn't. I just want to point that out because I feel that's not fair. It was not fair for Carla when she was younger.
It would have been good. It would have been good for you to actually meet like 20-year-old Carla and tell her all of these things.
Oh, I don't know of any better.
But hey, I made it. I made
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So what we have learned, guys, is sense of community is super important. Be able to ask for help. You saw how Carla overcome a lot of her challenges. Carla mentioned about researching, educating yourself more on your job and talking to people who could help you guide you better. What was the other one? I think it was another one that you mentioned.
The being
Oh
intentional,
yes.
like embrace your strengths and work them as muscle.
Okay. So there's a lot of content here. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy Carla. She's a beautiful human being. By the way, I will link her LinkedIn profile. Do you use LinkedIn? Okay, she does look
Yes, I do.
LinkedIn. I'll link her profile down below so you can follow her. She is a great resource. And if it's not for administrative stuff, she's also a great resource to be intentional in their personal skills. I'm telling you, she is really good at it. She's really good at it. And so, thank you, and I will see you in the next episode. Oh, thank you,
Thank
Carla.
you.